What's going to be? How's it hanging? How's it happen? You guys know this is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast, sponsored by Dark Fission Systems, the best in custom computing and building technology, whether it comes from your gaming PC, anything you're doing creatively, music-wise, and whatever else you might want. Dark Fission Systems will have the computer custom PC built for you that you exactly want and are going to be proud of. You can get $100 off your entire build using the code CPPOD at darkfusionsystems.com. Link description of the podcast below. Go check them out. Use that code anytime for your custom build. $100 off. Ooh, yeah. Now it's time for our feature presentation. We have Dylan from the band Dead Poets Society on. The brand new album Fission comes out on January 26th, and we talk about this album for a band that just does not miss. And get ready for some great touring coming up early 2024. You ready for this one? Because you better be. Let's go! Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of the Chord Progression Podcast. My buddy Shane said, you got to check out this band. You're going to enjoy them. And when I saw they had a brand new album coming out right at the end of January, I'm like, let's go see what it is. Let's go see what it's all about and check out this whole entire band. And for a guy that loves everything that's manic, crazy, and heavy about music, a band that's kind of labeled themselves as heavy indie rock and gent pop, really interesting, but holy shit, was this something that I was not expecting. The brand new album from this band, Fission, comes out on Friday, January 26th, and it is absolutely insane, let me tell you. But without me telling you, let's go and actually talk to someone about it. So please welcome Dylan from the band Dead Poets Society of the podcast. So Dylan, welcome to the Chord Progression Podcast.
How's it going, guys? Thank you for having me, man.
Man, it is great to have you here. It's great to be able to talk to you. And this brand new album, like I said, dude, originally, I'm like, this really isn't fully my style. But once I jumped into it, I was pretty damn impressed, not gonna lie. This was really something. I mean, I'm kind of blown away by what you guys put together here.
Oh, well, thank you. That's it's very flattering. And let me ask, I don't even know. Do you have your hands on the full album, or is it just the singles that you've heard?
I got my having the full album, so like I'm ready to talk about every single song, and sick. I dove deep in everything, so I'm ready, man.
Yeah, I just didn't know who the label gave it to, and so you're an exclusive club. Congratulations.
The exclusive club. Can I get like a sticker that says that, and just put it right here, like I went to the doctor or something and got the sticker at the end of it, like, hey, I got the.
Sure, I'm sure we can arrange that. Yeah, let me talk to the suits about that one.
Perfect. So when it came to Fission, I know it's just like you guys had a big year, especially from the 2021 coming out with that first album that you really came out with, had a great year behind it. Now Fission coming out. I know you guys have been getting a lot of positivity from the singles so far. So how is everything feeling your end right before the release of the album?
It's scary, man. I mean, it's like, well, I should start by saying we're super grateful for the reception we've gotten so far on the singles. It's this time around, there are more people waiting and listening than there were last time. So that's, of course, very exciting, and we could not be more fortunate. And at the same time, we're like, well, shit, like I hope this doesn't disappoint, which I guess is I would imagine is normal, or maybe I'm just like outrageously insecure. But it's exciting and it's scary.
I don't think you're necessarily outrageously insecure at that, because I mean, I've talked with artists like this for probably almost 5 years at this point, and that's a huge thing I keep seeing as a consistency whenever new music comes out. It's always exciting because you want to have people hear it. You're excited to see what people are going to take to the sound that you guys have created on this album, where you're progressing your sound going forward, where it's going to evolve, how much better you've gotten as musicians overall. But it's also scary too, because especially if the last one did so well, you don't want to have something that's going to disappoint. You want to be able to continue that momentum going forward and make sure that this is going to continue to be the best year for Dead Poets Society so far. Always put that so far in there, because I want to keep seeing the band do better and better every single year. So there is some of that scariness that's going to come in there, especially when you're releasing art that's, has some personality to it, has a lot more of these personal feelings to it. It's a little vulnerable in a way at the same time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's we've heard these songs for over 2 years now, so it's just really weird to think about that everyone else hasn't, and that this only now will be their first time hearing what we're so used to. We have so much almost like a jadedness around, because anything that's not new anymore eventually starts to become less exciting and less new. So like it's kind of weird shifting into that mindset of acknowledging that anyone who's not us or our, our close circle, um, are hearing this for the first time. And it kind of like, as we're a week away from it coming out now, I've that kind of hit me. It's like, oh shit, like I've been so numb to these 13 songs for a while now, and I have to remind myself to like, no one else has heard this shit. So it I don't even really know what my point is there. I just it's a weird concept to think about. Yeah.
I can understand that too. It's you've known these songs for so long. You've heard them so much in your head and listening to them, getting them ready over and over and over again, where that initial newness that happens when you first make them happen, you first record them, that's kind of rubbed off all completely because of all that repetition and hearing it. But as you're releasing these songs out into the world right now, everyone's having that initial first reaction to it. So you have to reset your mind and try and put yourself back in that headspace of these are technically brand new. But does it help when you see a lot of people reacting to those songs, talking about them, sharing their opinions on them at the exact same time? So you get back in that headspace of this is something that is technically new because now the world is finally hearing it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, any day that, because we've had I guess it's weird to even say this because I don't know how new of a normal this is, but we've had now 6 releases from the album, which is a little less than half the entire album. And I feel like um I don't know when that became so normal. I feel like as far as I can remember, like maybe 2 or 3 songs coming out before a full album is released was like the norm. But anyway, we've now had 6 different occasions where we've put something out there, and to your point, yes, it's like when you hit, um, or whether it's that Instagram post or even just the clock hitting midnight and it's live on Spotify or Apple or wherever, and then it's just like this kind of rush of like, oh, okay, now is the moment that these people are seeing and hearing this, and every 6 times that have happened now, which again feels like a lot. Um, it's been what you're saying, yeah, like oh shit, like it's a rush. It's scary, but it's exciting. And then when you see um the comments rolling in, which I kind of scoffing at myself even saying that because it's such a sign of the world we live in at this moment. It's it's validating. It's exciting. It's fulfilling. Um, Sometimes it's not validating. Sometimes it's like this is not as good as I wanted it to be. But thankfully, it's been way less of that than the alternative.
Yeah, because you're never going to hit on everyone's expectations. If you're going to try and
No.
please every single person that's out there, you're going to end up pleasing nobody. We pretty much know that. So when it
Yeah.
comes to music, I'm always like, make sure you're pleasing yourself because it's your art. You're the ones that are creating. You're the ones that are living with it. So it's got to appease you before it appeases anybody else. So that's where the true, artistic integrity really comes through. And I love what you said about just like, yeah, watch the comments roll in and how it's a sign of the times that we live in. But then
Yeah.
it so is releasing, 6 songs or singles before the album releases, just given how much more prominent streaming is, how much more prominent those algorithms have become when it comes to releasing music, getting in the ears of people when they're constantly inundated with so many new songs, so much new music throughout their day, that everything is done just to try and keep that attention going where, I still always remember where it was like, 2-3 singles and that was it. I think the
Right.
first time I ever saw 4 or 5 singles released from an album was maybe like 2017, early 2018. Now it's like if half the album isn't released before the actual album release day, it
Yeah.
feels like, this is weird. I still love it though, because then you get to experience the whole album a lot later and you get to experience it in full and not know half of the album at that point. But again, it's a sign of the times that we're living in at this point.
It is. I mean, there's a content overload in every direction on every platform. So I guess that's maybe the reason. It's just like if if you're not on the public's mind, for if you go a month or two without being out there, you might as well not exist, which is kind of sad to think about. But I think that's the point we've reached in society.
It is insanely sad to think about. It just the amount of these small attention spans that people have, plus the amount of just different things that are coming our way when it comes to social media, advertising, literally anything that are just thrown our way. It's, we're constantly having our minds just flash with all these different brand new things. I mean, I think Bo Burnham said it best. You can have a little bit of everything all of the time thanks to the internet.
Yeah.
So that's
Mhm.
constantly what happens. But at the exact same time, at certain points, even if you're not constantly there, every month or so, and you take a step back, it's like, oh, you might be forgotten about. But at the exact same time, if you really need that break, if you need that break from social media, need that break from attention to maybe recharge, refocus, and especially when you're writing music as well, to just focus in on that, that's not necessarily the worst thing in the world to not have any real attention on you at that point, giving
Yeah.
you that sole, like, isolated space from the internet to make sure you're working on your craft as best as possible.
No, that's a great perspective. I appreciate that.
I say I wish I could do the exact same thing, but when it comes to trying to promote a podcast episode on everything, yeah, I kind of have to be there every single day, and it gets to be a lot at times.
Absolutely,
a lot of the time.
Man. I took a break from Instagram for it's ridiculous that I'm even talking about this like an achievement. But I took a break for like 3 weeks or so in December, and it was maybe it might have even been less than 3 weeks. But it was a nice change of life experience. So I recommend it.
I'll have to ask about that. Was it just because you're able to be more present in the moment with what you were doing, what people were around you, or you just didn't have a lot of that noise coming through, having to look at your phone all the time in order to take care of certain things, and you didn't have to worry about that, so the stress and the anxiety that could possibly come up from that is now wiped away for that period of time?
I'd say it's the second one. Yeah, just the kind of the piece that came from not having the getting out of the habit of that compulsion. You open up you open up your home screen and your thumb goes to the app before you're even thinking about doing it, and then before you know it, you're in the feed, and it's just like it just assaults you, and before you know it, you're scrolling for 15-20 minutes, and it's not good. It's not good for your thinking. It's really I mean, I'm not saying anything revolutionary here. I think at this point in 2024, we all know this. But to put it to actually commit to it and put it into practice, as I said, doing it for 3 weeks or less was an achievement. So yeah, just cutting it out is just and I say this as I'm back on it. I was just on it right before this call, but I think the more if I can get myself to do that a few times a year, I think that'd be better for my existence.
I don't think it would just be better for your existence, but like if everyone were to follow suit as well and do it at some point in time throughout the year, like what if we got somewhere it's like every single social media platform just shut down for like a week, where it's you couldn't post anything on there, nothing new was coming through, which is, I mean, and it's never going to happen because of economics and money and business practices, but just to take that time away and just actually get back to having to talk to people face to face, in person, being present in the moment, having to go outside and literally do something. Take us back to like 2016, even though people were on their phones at that time, but no one was going on social media. Everyone was in the park walking around because there was a Charizard that popped up and everyone wanted to go catch
it. That's right. At least at that point, there was an outdoor affiliation with using your phone. Yeah, I agree that I can't imagine that ever happening, but it's nice to think about.
I mean, maybe the guys at Anonymous, can just make something happen where they just go and hack every single social media site, just shut it down for a week. You never know. I mean, I would leave it up to them to do something like that.
Let's hope they're listening, because I would not be mad at that.
I wouldn't. Happening. I wouldn't be either. It would be quite cleansing, especially from a mental standpoint. But jumping back into Fission as well, especially now with, right before the album release, you got a bunch of those singles out there right now. Before we go into some of the songs that are maybe not released or some of the best songs that I think are on the album, any comments so far really stand out in your mind that you've seen that just maybe are the best ones you've seen, the most heartwarming ones you've seen, the ones that have impacted you the most? Anything stand out in your mind?
This is maybe kind of broad and maybe even generic, but I just when I see people saying things like, "Oh my God, these guys don't miss," or like, "How does this band keep getting better?" I feel cocky even reciting that out loud, but I'm not saying, I'm just talking about what I've read. It I get this very, oh my God, like that's like, I just feel lucky to be in a position where someone is going out of their way to not just think that, but publicly acknowledge it. And it's a really cool feeling, but back to the content thing for a second. There's so much out there all the time in every direction. And I barely comment on things ever. Once in a blue moon, while I go out of my way to type something on something, congratulating or appreciating it. And so the fact that anyone, let alone thousands of people, are doing that as these songs roll out, um, is really special. I'll sometimes be reading something that like I'll get like actual like goosebumps, and even in the sometimes it is really powerful stuff. Sometimes it's like, this song saved me from this breakup or this, depressive spell or something, and that's really powerful. But it doesn't even need to be that. It can be something as simple as just like I said, like how do like these guys don't miss. Um, it just feels very like, wow, like thank you. It just feels like real gratitude that I can't really explain otherwise.
I mean, I think you still explained it perfectly. Just real gratitude seeing that. There's a number of bands I've seen that happen to where, especially from the last year, getting comments like, how's this band keep getting better? How's this band not miss? They get better with every single release. And it all speaks to just the quality of the music that you're making, but at the same time, you're still having this absolute impactful sound and impactful moment on those fans when they listen to it. And that's all through songwriting. That's all through how you guys, not only instrumentally, but also when it comes to the vocals, the lyrics, how everything's put together to tell these certain stories, to tell these emotions, to take us on those journeys. And if you're able to continue to evolve your sound like you guys have on this album and continue to really understand what it is that Dead Poet Society is and how it's connecting with people and how people are just really taking more into it, that's something that, can't be overstated. So when you do see comments like that come through, I understand where you don't want to like get sucked into it and also get sucked into the social media side of things. But it's also a time where you can see how people are interacting and reacting to the music that's already out there and see what's going on. You're actually seeing
Right.
genuine reactions happen in real time when people are first discovering the new songs or discovering the band as a whole, so that when you go and play live, especially when you go over to Europe, right, pretty much literally right after the album release, and then stay in the US afterwards to go on your headlining run here, you're going to see all those interactions play out in a completely different setting when you get to see people face to face, when they get to experience your songs from you guys directly in an environment where everyone is feeling some sort of positivity because of the music you guys made.
Yeah, you just summed it up perfectly, man. It's special. It's something that I think a day does not go by that I think about that, and I appreciate we all appreciate that. This is something we've all individually, since before any of us even met each other, have dreamed of, having the opportunity to do something like this to this uh, type of the size of an audience, and it's very cool.
Oh, absolutely, it has to be. And now jumping into the album, there's a couple of songs that still stand out to me, but there was one. I literally sent this to my buddy maybe 10 minutes before we jumped on this call. I said, hey, when the album comes out on January 26th, out of any single song that you check out, I hope you check out the whole album though, but there is one that is just really hitting strong for me. And that was, I hope it's kind of spelled a little weird. I hope I get it right, but I believe it's 81 Tones or 81 Tons or however you pronounce it.
Tons, yeah. No, that's one of my favorites as well, man. We did release it as a single. It was the second to latest single that came out.
Okay.
And it came out last month in December. Thank you, man. Actually, that was the second to last. So we had recorded 11 songs, and that was going to be it. It was going to be the full album, and then through a series of events, we went back into the studio and recorded two more, and one of them was that one. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
I mean, there are so many different aspects that are coming through to the song that really stand out, especially honestly for me, it starts out from the beginning because there's different songs, even like when I'm listening to it, there's certain pieces I'm picking out in terms of overall flow, vibe, guitar tone, how the vocals are working. And I'm listening, I'm like, how did you guys turn the guitar tone at the intro to 60 centimeters of steel by Alpha Wolf and then turn into this overall more flow that reminded me of the intro to Chokehold by Sleep Token and really capture the whole entire vibe of like just like not Sleep Token, but the overall like flow and just the power that their music has created. How'd you guys able to put that into one song just from the first like 10 seconds? I sat there, I'm just thinking, I don't know how this is happening, but I'm absolutely loving what's going on right here. We got to listen to more of this, and I'm hoping the whole song really grows within that. And without saying, much, yeah, it absolutely just grew within that.
Oh, well, dude, thank you so much. And you're not far off. We love Sleep Token. We were inspired by them for sure on their most recent release, and you are not off base to make that comparison. So, thank you.
Yeah, because you guys were able to like, and then if you go through the song even further too, is just the chorus. It was, you took kind of especially more their flow and a little bit more of like the little funk inspirations they kind of put into their song, mix it with a lighter, bombastic indie rock feeling that is really at the core from what you guys have. Also mixed with this, at times electronic feel that has this real connection to the band Muse. And it just took the song overall to new heights, especially for me. Everything flowed through so well. Jack's vocals here had a lot more force behind them to really make everything stand out, especially I think for the betterment, whether it was what you guys were doing in the backing with the whole entire flow, what the programming was doing over the top of it, just really letting every bit of it out there, taking this experimentation style, putting it together on a song, and creating something that, honestly, I think that especially as the band continues to grow, people are going to hear this. People are going to get further behind this song individually as the album releases, and especially when they hear it live, given the fact that this song is just something that's going to captivate you in the ear, in the mind, in the body, in the soul, right from the get-go.
Dude, I want to carry you around with us, and you can pitch these songs exactly like you're doing to whoever's about to listen to them, because you're really you're hyping us up in a great way. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, when you guys come on tour, especially on your US tour, when you guys make your stop in Milwaukee, I'll do this exact same thing. I'll just pitch it to everybody.
We'll bring you up on stage before we perform. We'll put you on the mic, and you can do exactly that.
We might actually be able to make that work because I got a good relationship with the venue, and we might just have to set that up with someone. It's
great.
Like, alrighty,
Cool.
Everybody, and just see what happens from there.
Yeah, or even just in public outside the venue to people walking by. If we haven't sold that show out, try to fill it up with this method. I'd fully support that.
You know what? Might have to do that. Might have to give it a shot because I know you guys are playing there on a Saturday. It'll be a lot easier to walk around the area or just do whatever the heck I can. Honestly, if it involves me potentially getting in an airplane and just like flying around with a big giant banner that has all these words in it trying to explain it, it might actually work. I'm not sure, but you know what? I've always wanted to fly a plane.
I have not, but I'll leave that to you.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I was getting a call. It distracted me for a second. But no, dude, I everything you're saying is just, it's much appreciated. It's hard to, the way you're talking about these songs, I almost feel like awkward on the listening end because I don't, it's very generous, and it's a very high compliment. So I don't really know how to properly respond. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. The one other song that really stood out to me was the first song in the album, 52945, specifically because, like I said earlier, I'm a little bit more of the heavy, more manic stuff. If it's going to get me going the pit to go smashy against somebody, I'm all for it. That song, though, had a heavier melodic flow to it. Kind of felt like we could get into something even metal, too, which I was really interested in, but it had this overall flow of just kind of bringing you into the album with a little bit more of this heavier, rougher mentality, really being able to let you dive deep into something personally and get to the depth of it and know you're going to come out on the other end a lot more positive, a lot better, and just flesh out any instances of potential reflection and trying to go through those moments that you could possibly have. It opened up the album so well to go in any direction, but especially for me, for someone that likes a little bit of the heavier side of things, I just looked at that and thought, this was not what I was expecting, but I am so ready for this album right now after listening to that first song. It took me into a different place, man.
Awesome. That was kind of the goal of putting that one first, because it is a little bit heavier, and I'll speak for myself. I love music that's heavy. I love a lot of music that is far heavier than anything we'll ever touch in what we make, just because it's, I don't know if everyone feels the same way about that as I do, but yeah, that one is dark, and I'm glad it hit you the way you're describing that it did.
Hit the way it was intended from the band. Oh yeah.
Hell yeah.
Looks like we're doing something right here. So compared to all the other songs that I got to ask this. Now, this might be one of the harder questions to answer, because when it comes to asking this, I know it might be like picking your favorite child, especially on an album, but out of all these songs in the album, which one is the one that just is like your favorite, or the one that just stands out to you the most?
Yeah, it's actually, for me, it's pretty easy. I love all the songs, as you said, picking your favorite child. But my favorite is the 6th track on the album. It's called Uto. and it's yet to be released. And I won't try to explain why I love it. It was one of the earlier songs we wrote throughout the bunch, and just from that day till this moment, two years later or so, it still just does something to me that uh, it strikes a particular part of my soul that the rest of them don't. And I hope that others feel the same way.
I had to scroll through my notes and like, okay, Uto, which song was that again, and what did I think about it? Because I know when it comes to these episodes and recording them and, talking with you face to face, there's certain times it's just like, there's certain songs I'm not going to remember exactly everything about it. So I want to write everything down. When it came to Uto, I'm like, okay, now I can kind of see exactly where you're coming from, potentially where it hit and why it just hits you personally. Because for me, it sounded like you guys took your roots, especially that heavier indie rock style, and mixed them with the sounds and stylings of like a Led Zeppelin. And did it to some way incredibly well, where it stands out heavier, especially with a little time in the vocals in the verses. But when you get to the chorus, it really has this more bombastic feel like a Led Zeppelin. Has a little more of this cosmic 70s like electronic feel over the top of it at times. But it just really opens up in a completely different way that I wasn't expecting. And with a mix of something that I didn't think would possibly work. But after you listen to it, I'm just sitting there going, again, I don't know how you guys did this, and no wonder why people keep saying this band does not miss, and this band keeps getting better with every release. When people hear Uto once it releases, this might be the song that a lot of people gravitate towards because it is so different in terms of the stylings that you guys work with, but it hits so powerfully like that classic rock anthem that so many people know and love.
Dude, thank you. I mean, Zeppelin is one of my favorite bands of all time, so that's a massive comparison and compliment. And yeah, that's sick. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. You guys deserve it. I'm thinking this stuff literally as I'm like listening to it maybe the first or second time, like, man, I'm starting to pick up on this. And I'm just surprised overall with how many different little pieces of different bands, of different influence, different styles you guys are able to take and infuse into your sound as well and create something that from an album standpoint has this completely unique flow to it where you can pick out those little instances, but overall, exactly this is a Dead Poet Society album through and through. You can tell that the core sound that you guys have is absolutely there and is just being expanded and evolved upon throughout every single song on this album.
I'm speechless, man. Thank you. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
So if that's not a good enough, pitch for you guys to go and check out this album on January 26th when it releases, I don't know what is. Like, I
agree. I also don't know what else is. We should give you a job, man.
I'll say this. I would love to have a job. However, at the same time, if that doesn't happen, just get me a plane, get me the whole entire banner or something. I'll go flying around Milwaukee. I'll go flying over Chicago as well. We'll see what happens. We'll hope for the best. Maybe you have to get a huge QR code on it as well so people can try and scan it as I'm flying. It might work. I don't know. It might happen. Or give me a bullhorn. I'll just go around town and just start yelling, hey, you got to check this out. And maybe make some random jokes like in between there so it doesn't sound like I'm just being absolutely promotional and just marketing because people don't like constant advertising. Got to throw some comedy in there just to see what happens. Might work.
I know we just met, but I believe you can do it. I think you're the guy.
Ooh, I'm the guy. Well, if it comes time where, for that Milwaukee show, if it's not sold out yet, we'll make it happen. I'll talk to the Rave about that too. We'll go walking around. We'll go have a blast with it, and we'll try and get more people into this and see if we can get that whole entire show to sell out and get that whole entire place just packed.
Perfect. It's a plan.
I'll say the thing that excites me most about that show too, outside of seeing you guys play, is the fact that I know for the US run, you guys have multiple openers for a couple of different dates. For the Milwaukee date, you guys have Silly Goose opening for you guys, which just makes me smile knowing what those guys have done in order to get their name out there. So how did this whole entire, especially from the U.S. side of the tour, how did this thing come together with all these different opening acts playing at different, couple of different dates here? I know Post Profit is one of them. I've had those guys in the podcast a couple of times, and they're an incredible band. Cool. So when it came to getting this tour together, I know it might be more of a management side of thing, but have you been able to connect with the other bands that are opening? Do you know them? What's the story there?
Yeah, absolutely. So Silly Goose says you probably kind of I think you were just referring to, they've done some crazy shit to get themselves out there and it has worked very well. We were on tour with Highly Suspect, almost a year ago. It was February of 23. And Silly Goose, was an unofficial part of that tour because they trailed every date in their stage on wheels basically, and at the end of every show in the parking lot, they performed, and they killed it every time. It was people they'd be clearing out of the venue, and as soon as the first bodies were out in the parking lot, they would hit it hard. Jackson, who's the lead singer, he'd be on top of they converted this like box car into a stage, and he'd be on top of it, and there'd be moshing in the parking lot, and it was just, I mean, from this that tour was, I don't know how many shows, not a small amount of shows. It was, I don't know, somewhere between 15 and 20, and they were at every one, and they did it in the snow on some shows. It was just mind blowing. And actually, towards the end, I think it was St. Louis. It was like I don't know. It was the last like 3 or 4 shows of the tour. Highly Suspect invited them inside, and they officially did open. They went on stage before we did, and they blew the house down. And yeah, and then after they did that, they went and did the same thing for Bad Flowers tour. We're very close with Bad Flower as well, and we heard similar situation. So they just, if you haven't heard of Silly Goose, that's their legacy so far. And beyond that, I think a few months after that, they went viral for performing in a Subway, not like the restaurant Subway.
Yeah.
So they're killer. So that was kind of just like an obvious choice. They deserve everything that's coming to them. And as for the other bands, Post Profit, we recently toured opening for Nothing More, and Post Profit was among that bill. They were one of the bands opening for that as well. Incredible guys, incredible musicians. One of the better bands I've heard throughout my time touring, which has been 5-ish years now. So that was an easy choice too. Sunfish opened up for one of our shows just one time in their town, Salt Lake, and just, I mean, I'm a broken record at this point talking about all these guys, but for good reason, because they're all just great. And so I actually personally have gone back and forth with Carter, who's the singer and guitarist of Sunfish, last year or so. We like a lot of the same music. And then Jack Collins, he's actually the one who arranged for them to open up for us at that show. So he might even know Carter more than I do. But and then Andreas has actually been in the DPS ecosystem for a really long time. The band, before I was in this band, because I actually am not an original member of Dead Poets Society. But they actually opened for Andreas, I think on 1 or 2 tours back in the day, long time ago, probably 7 or 8 years ago at this point. And don't quote me on that timeline, I could be wrong. But yeah, so that's the short of, or maybe that wasn't so short, but that's the explanation for all these guys. And I wish we could bring them out on every show, but that wasn't possible. So yeah, it's segmented kind of equally throughout the 7 weeks or whatever it is. Each band has a slot in there.
Yeah, because when I saw that, I thought it was interesting that you guys were having 4 different openers, and it was just like segmented in different time frames. Of course, for me personally, I'd have loved to have seen Post Profit and Silly Goose with you guys on the exact same show.
That would have been awesome.
Just because of knowing Post Profit and knowing what Silly Goose has done and what they're all about. So it just kind of adds to it for me if that was the case. But the fact that you guys have all these different connections to these bands that you guys are having opening for you on this US run, and you're bringing them out there, helping them to not only get exposed to a brand new audience and maybe even, an audience that they know of, but get exposed to even more people, play with them, go out, have a good time. That's really what matters here. It's going to be somewhere you guys are still helping a lot of these bands that you guys have toured with before that are growing, that you guys have pretty much like fallen in love with their sound, continue to grow. That's the whole entire point of this thing, right? To help out each other so that, as a rising tide, it raises all ships. So you guys are doing well. All of a sudden, Silly Goose comes out, and performs in the parking lot before you guys play with, or after you guys play with Highly Suspect, and now they're coming and opening for you guys literally inside. I do hope I walk out of that show too, and then Silly Goose is just like on the street in their,
yeah,
stage on wheels.
They're the real headliners of the night. Yeah, they'll
like,
go
it's just
on again after us.
Yeah, this is literally going on again after you as you're walking out. Like, everyone will walk out of the venue, and all of a sudden we're just gonna hear, "Where's Silly Goose? We're still doing this shit." I'm just gonna sit there and say,
"Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they do."
If I can go and mosh in the street, then I'm gonna be a happy camper.
That's what they're known to induce. Yeah, I'm gonna plug my phone in. By the way, I'm sorry. By the way, is this a video podcast or is this just audio?
Oh, it'll be video.
Okay, well, everyone's gonna see me then walking inside and plugging in my phone because I didn't plan this properly.
Oh no, you're good, Dylan. I've had some weird stuff happen on here video wise. I've had phones go freak out on me before. We've had dogs and cats run in the middle. I've seen a lot of different things. So you having to go plug your phone in is nothing that's too crazy.
Okay, perfect. I'm glad I'm not destroying the entire episode by doing this.
Oh, no, you're good. But I know also before the U.S. run, you guys are going over to Europe too, and that's going to really start out the whole entire touring cycle off of this album. So I'm assuming you guys are psyched going over to Europe because that's a whole nother continent across the world, more audience to get in front of too, and a headlining show nonetheless. So just everything seems like it's rolling on like positively for you guys.
Yeah, this will be our 5th time over there. Maybe 4th. But this is by far these will be the biggest headline shows we'll have to date. It's pretty mind-blowing. We just sold out. Well, we had originally we were scheduled to play at a room in Amsterdam that was a capacity of 650, and then that sold out like months ago. The show is not even until August. Not August, March. It's not till the end of the tour. That sold out, and it was upgraded to another room in the same building that holds 1,000 people. And last I checked, that was at like 975 sold. So they then said to us that there's a balcony in that room that is by default like not part of the room, but that if we want, they can open that up, and that extends it to 1,400 people. So we'll see if we get there. But the fact that we even broke 650, let alone now coming to 1,000, is mind-blowing. That's very, very not normal for us. And then there are a few others, not quite that big, but a few others along the European tour that are record-breaking for us, at least to this point. London is one of them, and then just some cities in Germany. And what I'm trying to say is it seems to be working somehow. And it's very bizarre to think about, these shows are like weird. The headline, I mean, we've played for many crowds that are that size and bigger, but it's always, another band's crowd. So the fact that it's us this time, and I'm saying these numbers is surreal, especially the fact that it's across the ocean. It still doesn't really compute with me, even though we've been there 4 times already. It's very bizarre to think that like 6,000 miles away, there are a collection of people of that size that have carved out plans for their night and are going to see us play. So yeah, man, it's really cool.
Hey, if you guys are able to pull that off, 6,000 miles away, just you guys are absolutely doing something right. That's a huge testament not only to your guys' live show, but your guys' music, everything about who you guys are. So it makes sense, and it's something that you got to absolutely be proud of. So if you do not have plans to go see Dead Poet Society when they're playing, whether it's over in Europe in February and March, or if it's in the U.S. throughout April and May, change those plans right now and make sure you get yourself a ticket to go see that show. Trust me, you're gonna want to. I'm just telling you right now, you're going to want to.
Thank you. And if you go and you regret it, you didn't lose too much. I don't know. Tickets can't be more than $20 or something like that. So maybe you wasted a few hours of your life, but it's worth a try.
It's worth a try, but you're more likely going to go home happy than you are sad. Trust me on that. But Dylan, I got one more question before we wrap this up. You ready for it?
Sure.
I love to ask this question to as many people as possible because it helps us get to know more about the great music that's going on and the stuff that you like and that you're listening to. So can you give me 3 band or artist recommendations that you would love to see get more notice and get more exposure? I'm looking for 3. Give me any 3 you want. Whatever you're listening to, whatever it might be.
Man. These guys are bigger than us by far, but I still think they deserve more recognition, and that's Polyphia. Are you familiar?
Yep.
Yeah. Just absolute, just beyond human musical capability and creativity, and it's just the album they put out last year, or I guess 2022. Is just it. I can't comprehend how insane it is. So again, not that they need any more. They're doing just fine, but I will tell as many people as I can that don't already know who those guys are, who they are. Um, Other than you said three artists.
Yep. 3.
Yeah.
So we got one already.
Okay. Um, I'll throw Post Profit in there, man. We already talked about them, but yeah, they are killer. And if you like grunge, if you like heavy music, if you like shoegaze, even at some points, check out Post Profit. And then lastly, I don't know. I'm trying to think of something like trying to think of an answer here that is interesting. um, hmm. Uh, Damn. I don't know why this is so hard.
Maybe just gotta put you on the spot with something like this just out of nowhere. But it's always
Yeah,
fun to
but
hear what you guys are
I
thinking.
gotta be prepared. That's what this is all, yeah. Hmm. I'm just trying to think of an artist that I listen to that I don't think people would know. Um, hmm. I'm also like freaking out because I'm thinking like, oh, there's someone I know that's like really waiting for me to say them right now, and I'm like totally letting them down. Um, Damn, dude.
So you're probably good on that one because it was probably Post Profit in all honesty.
Yeah, yeah, but there are others that they're definitely not coming here right now, and I feel like an asshole. Um, Someone that I want, an artist that I want more people to know about. Um, Let me go into my Spotify for a second.
Also, you're not the first person to have to jump into their Spotify to check this
Okay,
out.
good, good. Um,
Because there's probably some you'll pull up in like the first like 5 seconds. You're like, oh shoot, why did I think of that right away? But hey, that's what the
right,
time is for. We're able to figure it out. Plus, it's a podcast. This ain't like network TV where it's like, oh no, we got to cut off right now.
right. Thank you. Um, okay. This is not at all a band that needs my shout out, anything close to it. But I would say that if you are a fan of the Red Hot Chili Peppers and you have not listened to the two albums that they released last year, um, or maybe we're in 2024 now. The latest, they released two albums in 1 year, whether that's last year or technically the year before. I suggest that you go check that out because I feel like in a lot of cases when a gigantic band releases a new album, sometimes they're overlooked because they're not, the super mega hits. And the fact they're one of my favorite bands, and the fact that they released two albums and both of which are like 17 or 20 songs each or something. I feel like not enough people have given those attention. And again, not that the Chili Peppers need my endorsement, but I guess just for lack of a better answer, I suggest that you check out the two new albums that the Red Hot Chili Peppers have released.
I have to agree. They don't necessarily need the promotion, but at the same time, maybe those newer albums definitely do because everyone, especially when it comes to a band as prominent as the Chili Peppers, we all know their hits. And when it comes to listening to them, that's pretty much, especially from a casual standpoint, that's all we want to hear. So maybe check out the two albums that came out. I believe it was 2022. So yeah, why not?
You're right.
I'll still say it's a good pick because then I can make a video out of it and I can put the two new albums up there and be like, it's these two.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and I wish, and I'm ashamed right now because I feel like I'm super basic for not really having any real unknown artists to throw out there. But that's my answer, I suppose.
Hey, you're good. That's what the question's for, because then there might be some people that always wanted to check them out, just didn't have the push to do it. And now here's the push to go and give it a shot right from Dylan's mouth.
All right. Let's hope so. Thank you.
Well, Dylan, I want to thank you for being on the podcast. I always like to end these episodes with 3 very specific things. So first things first, the brand album from Dead Poet Society, Fission, is coming out on January 26, 2024. You do not want to miss out on it. Plus, they're going to be on tour in Europe throughout February and March, and then the US throughout April and May. So make sure you go see them live. Make sure you come out and support them. If you're anywhere near the Milwaukee area for their show on April 27th at the Rave with Silly Goose coming out, because I'll be there. Let's have some fun. Let's do some stupid stuff too, because that's always a good time. And at the same time, let's support these guys too. So best way to stay in touch with the band, go to the description of the podcast where it says Find Dead Poet Society online. Links and labels for all their social media where you can watch music videos, where you can stream music, where you can make sure you pre-save the album, or if it's out already, go listen to the whole entire thing. You are going to want to do that, where you can go and get tickets for their live shows, and where you can go get some merch as well, because you're probably going to want to support these guys even more after you hear this album. So all the links are going to be down there for you with labels and everything, so we will be set there. And now, Dylan, it's time for number 2. I almost put 3 up there. Now it's time for number 2. Whenever you're guesting the podcast and enjoying the podcast, I tend to make a certain promise that says, thank you for being on the podcast. I thank you for the time that you give me. Also, I want to continue to support the band any way I can in the future. So this is not an if. I hate ifs as promises. It's a when. When I get to see perform live for the first time, which it looks like it's going to be April 27th in Milwaukee, I'm going to do my best Liam Neeson impersonation for you, where I will look for you. I will pursue you. I will find you.
Okay.
I will come say hi, and first round's on me.
All right. That's a plan. Thank you, man.
I don't know how I'm going to be able to do it, but I'll find a way. There's always got to be some. I could probably bribe the Silly Goose guys into helping make that happen. They seem to be down for something like that.
They're down for anything, I think. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they are. Now it's time for number 3. As we bring this to its conclusion, I cannot end this episode by saying goodbye, because this was a hell of a lot of fun. I want to thank you once again. I'd love to be back in the podcast sometime in the future, and I got to keep good in that promise. So this cannot be goodbye, my friend. This is cool. I'll see you later.
All right, Kevin. Thank you so much, man. Great to meet you, and I'll see you at least in April, if not before then.
Oh yeah. Well, folks, this is my interview with Dylan from Dead Poet Society, and now it's time for Kevin's final thought. This one was a lot of fun because the band, I think they were described back in 2016 as heavy indie rock and gent pop, and you guys know me. I mean, I'm wearing my We Came as Roman shirt, which is still more like pop metalcore with all the stuff they did, but you guys know I like stuff that's heavier, that's more manic, that's got breakdowns, that's going to make me want to hit somebody in the pit. And I mean, I knew the name Dead Poet Society, but I never really checked them out. Of course, my buddy Shane was all into them and said, go check them out. So we took the time, we checked them out, and I mean, there's definitely something about this band that really connects a little bit more with me than I thought was going to. And a lot of it comes through just the way they have that indie rock, but like heavier side of things at the core, really heavily presented. Have a little bit of pop in there, a little bit more gent, attributes on top of that as well, to really bring out something a little bit more creative in a certain sense, a little bit more different than, your standard indie stuff or anything that's different that's going on in the rock and metal space right now. But what they're able to do is just take some of these songs and mix them with something completely different. Like we talked about with the song 81 Tones with, or 81 Tons, I believe it is. I clearly got that wrong, where it brought up a lot of different feelings of like their style, but with music and a flow that really reminded me of Sleep Token, that really stood out from an experimentation standpoint. But then we talked about, Dylan's favorite song, UTO, which is just like, you take their sound, but then they put this feeling of like 70s Led Zeppelin into it as well. And that's not an easy task to take on. It's not. It's definitely not. It's really hard to really make sure it sounds like it stands out completely differently, completely new, and they absolutely hit the mark on this one. It is one of my favorite songs on the album as well, and you go through this album, you're just going to feel great listening to it. There's so many different aspects that go through it. You're going to go through many different emotions when you feel it, but at the end of it, honestly, you're going to feel accomplished about the things you've gone through in life going through this album, and it's going to give you a fresh perspective on just some of the bad things in life, some of the good things in life, and how life, is just all part of who you are. That's pretty much it, and I'm pretty happy with this album, not going to lie. It's definitely going to be one I revisit every now and again, even for someone that doesn't like as much soft stuff as is on this album. But hey, if it hits me, it hits me. What can I say? I'll check them out live on April 27th at the Rave in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Make sure you do too, or any live date that's coming near you. So if you want to stay in touch with the band, hit the description of the podcast below. Make sure you find where it says Find Dead Poet Society Online. Links and labels for everything to check out the album, find their tour dates, go get tickets to those, go get some merch, and follow them online. It's all down there. Make sure you also follow along with the Chord Progression Podcast in the description. You can find links for Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button right down here. If you are on Spotify, Podcast, Aereo, Amazon, or anything, hit the follow button or subscribe button. New episodes of the podcast every single Tuesday and Thursday. And for YouTube, the special reactions on Friday as well. Hit the like button or the thumbs up button, or wherever it is. Help push this in the algorithm. Give Dead Poet Society a listen if you haven't. If you have, go and do it again. Now, I want to thank you guys for listening to this one. Thanks to Dylan for being on the podcast. Can't wait to see him in April. Hope you guys are there too. And on that note, that's going to be it, guys. Thank you for watching and listening to the Chord Progression Podcast. My name is Kevin, and you guys know how I end every single one of these episodes with Big Healthy and Hearty. See ya!